What's up, y'all? We want to welcome you back to the Elevate podcast with Kevin and Joseph. All right.
What's happening, Kev?
How you
we
doing, bro?
Good. And you?
I'm good, man. We got a special guest today.
Yes, we do. As you guys know, lately we have just been bringing on different guests, friends of ours, people that we know will provide great content for this podcast and have their big mind. They're all great thinkers, people that, we enjoy having conversations with. And today, that person is none other than our good friend, Angel Castillo. Angel, how you doing, my friend?
Hey guys, it's an honor, honestly, to be here. I feel like I'm on that TV show I'm always watching, and now I'm like in it. I'm part of it. It's awesome.
No, man, we
man.
appreciate that you're one of our
Faithful followers. Yeah, this guy's actually someone who actually listens to our podcast.
And that's awesome. It makes me smile,
Yeah.
And we appreciate you, bro. I'm just so happy you came down and we get to do this today.
Yeah. Angel, just a quick disclaimer. Angel's like a really good friend of ours. He's like that brother that we enjoy being around, but we like enjoying him in spurts, you know?
In spurts. And yeah, no, we went to PUC together for
Yeah,
everybody.
we did.
That's where we met. Kevin had the opportunity to work with him at camp for a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
And we just grow that relationship. He's part of, I guess, the big friend group of PUC for us, right?
No. He's not just that. He's Mr. PUC.
Oh, there you go.
Let's be honest.
Mr. PUC. And man, yes, he is. He was a recruiter for PUC. And to be honest, like, he definitely bailed us out, when we needed help down here in San Diego.
Times.
And we appreciate PUC for giving him, lending us him to always help us out.
Jeez, I feel like this is just going on way too long. This introduction, like,
No, bro. We
No,
need people.
the
Need to
people
know
need to
you.
know, bro.
They need to know who you
I'm
are.
not huge on
why
like
you're here.
words of affirmation. You
You
guys
know?
are just like,
I know you're not either.
That's true. You're right. You're not.
He
You're not
doesn't
a
like
word.
it. That's so true.
So we're just so grateful, bro. That's how you know.
I appreciate, like, I say the exact same thing about you guys. We've all had different journeys, obviously. I call Kevin like my little brother that I love, but I don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm learning to like you more and more. Like every time I see you, there's more and more things I learn about you, and what's there not to like, honestly.
There's a lot, but thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
And then
I'm not good
Joseph-
at words of affirmation either.
Okay. Joseph, I feel like our relationship is like, it's pretty new, but like it's like we're almost like in the honeymoon phase of our friendship.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah.
But if it's pretty strong, like I still feel pretty close with you in that
Yeah,
way.
no, definitely. It's good.
I love it.
So what are we talking about today, Kev?
Well, we're actually, so this is probably week 2, right, of this series that we're going to be doing, that we are doing, called Real Talks.
Yes.
Or Getting Real. I don't even know what we're going to call it, but really what it's about is just talking about life and just getting honest and real about, all these different topics. And I think I'm excited for what's going to happen. I'm excited that we got Angel to talk about something real today.
Yes.
And so we're talking about purpose. And so before we get into it, before we get into this whole idea of what purpose is, or before we get into the whole thing on purpose, let's talk about what purpose is. So I guess the question to throw out is, what is purpose? It's kind of a loaded question.
If I can speak like on my personal experience, I'd say for me it's been a calling. Something I've heard pretty clearly, like a line, a road for me to follow. Just like something I need to stay on this road.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Also purpose can be the belief within yourself to move forward in life where you feel happy, you feel secure, and you those ideas which you uphold and you believe in are something you're doing on a consistent basis. That's what I would say purpose is. But there's so many ways to word it. There's so many people. They have different meanings. Honestly, right now, what I was just thinking about, the Justin Bieber song "Purpose."
There's a song called Purpose.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so disconnected. When it
No,
comes
dude,
to
this came out
music.
like when I was in high school.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know why that just came into my mind. That was really
I
weird.
didn't know either.
All the believers out there are like, yes.
Actually, let me make sure that was actually a
Right?
song. I could be. Yeah.
Yes, we don't have a producer yet, like in here that can fact check us.
Oh,
but
I was wrong. I'm not
that's
wrong.
In the making.
Yeah.
But no, I think I heard a pastor say this once. His name is Rich Wilkerson Jr. He's the pastor at VU Church out in
Florida.
at a church in Florida. And I think the way he put it, and I don't even know if it was actually him, honestly, but I think it's him. So I'll give him the credit for right now. But it's this idea that it's kind of like your talent plus your spiritual gifts, plus your passions, plus your experience, plus your situation is your purpose,
Mm.
right? And so, in other words, like it's not just if you're good at something, right? Because you can be good at something, but that's not your purpose, right?
Yeah.
But if you're good at it, if you're passionate about it, and if it and based on your life experiences, on top of where you currently are in life, I feel like that's a good way to kind of sum up. Those are the little intangibles that you need to kind of figure out what your purpose is.
And I like the way you put it with your passions, your gifts, because that feels like it's something God intentionally caters to you.
Mm-hmm.
Something and that's kind of a lot of what I've experienced and what I like seeing other people's lives. Like you have those gifts, you have those talents. Let God use them. Yeah.
You know, and I think I love that we're talking about this today because I think a lot of young people, and even people older, they sometimes they're always looking for your purpose. They're looking for their purpose. It's this constant battle of trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with my life, right? And I know there have been many times where I've talked to individuals and they're trying to figure out what to do, whether it's moving around from jobs or switching majors. And I totally think that's okay, right? I think, in this life, which we live right now, we have to, God wants us to live a life that is best for him, which serves him at our fullest, but also that we enjoy it. And, because he loves us and that's part of his love, this idea that we can choose something which we know will, number one, honor him, right? But also, something that we can see ourselves doing every single day, right? Because a purpose is not just a one day thing. It's not a week thing. It's something, it's a life thing,
Yeah.
you know?
But I guess the thing that I would wrestle with the most, and I'm pretty sure like our audience probably wrestles with the same idea too, is like, how do you figure that out then? Because like in theory, right? We're talking a lot about theory stuff, and I feel like that's theory is so easy to talk about because you can say like this is how it should be,
Yeah.
and it's not always the case though. So I guess maybe we can talk about what our own experiences are with purpose.
Definitely.
And maybe if if we've discovered what it is, and if not, maybe we can help each other kind of wrestle with this idea of what each other's purpose is, or what direction we're kind of seeing life kind of take us right now.
Yeah.
So Angel,
I mean,
for you, like
you
what?
want to-
Let's go, bro.
You're the
Yeah.
star of our show today,
Yes,
man.
you are.
Yeah. Well, I guess like I have to go back to high school for me. I was actually not the super extroverted, like wanting to talk to people all the time person I am now.
What?
Yeah.
crazy.
That's
no, like,
surprising.
Yeah,
seriously,
that's actually.
I was very shy, like kind-natured, soft-spoken. And then a person from my church, one of the youth there, was like, "Hey, like let's do skits together. Like let's be silly on stage and like talk about God." And I was extremely nervous, but I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Let's try it. I want to see what that's like. And so we did the skit guys. I don't know if you guys like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude, I
yeah.
love skit guys.
Everybody has
They're
to know
so
what this
funny.
is.
Yeah, exactly. I probably did 20 of their skits in total
Dang.
with that friend, and that just like made me blossom into the angel I am, I guess today. Like just going up on stage in front of church and basically, like communicating, connecting with people, and doing it through ministry. And that's something that's followed me to now. Like all those three things. And so then, like graduating high school, going to PUC, I got involved with every single thing I could.
Literally everything.
Every single thing I could, because I found that passion of connecting with people, and that I loved talking. Apparently, and that had been like just hidden inside me, but it came out. And so yeah, I got involved with every single thing. And I guess between I probably my sophomore year to now, I feel God's put it into my heart. That's the way I've told people, into my heart, 5 purposes, tangible kind of like goals that he wants for me. And I've seen all of the things I got involved at PUC, at Pine Springs Ranch, my summer camp that I worked at, all of them tools to like accomplish these 5 things. And one of them is work for higher education, which I'm currently doing and about to finish at PUC. My next one being wanting to either start or be the director and run my own summer camp, which kind of be pseudo what I'm doing next in Southern California. I'm moving down here to kind of pursue something of that. The next would be start a nonprofit helping just children in the city with like mental health that are like maybe missing a parent or don't have a brother or even missing just everything in life. And another job I'm going to have is ADRA, which is a nonprofit that does a lot of things that are maybe in that line of work. And then starting my own church and
Wow.
Hello, ring ring.
Pastor Angel
no,
Castillo.
no. But it would not be the pastoral role. Like I want to help administer the church, and most of all help focus on the community service.
Yeah.
Like make it a community church, and that's why I like the name of your guys' church. When I saw that, it said community church. I'm not sure if it's that still the name.
Yeah, it is.
I love that name. I just the idea of community is one of my favorite things in ministry. So I would want to start a sort of community church like that, and then maybe hire pastors and be a pastor.
He's gonna be the one hiring the pastor.
Wow, he's the one in charge. So he's the what would you
Well,
call him?
'cause
The
I-
executive
Yeah.
pastor then?
I have a vision for it, and I don't have it all. God's bringing it together. Maybe it won't happen. But the last one, he's recently put this one in my heart, and I'm not totally sure about this one. It's start an orphanage, and I know there's different words for it now.
Wow.
Dude, you got
foster
some
homes.
big dreams.
Yeah, you got
man.
great dreams, bro.
And here's the thing, I had a conversation, and this may be something we touch on later. I don't know if we're jumping ahead, but I may not open an orphanage. I may, because I do want to adopt kids, I may just end up adopting or fostering some kids down my life. And I do want to open and start a church, but I may end up not doing that. A friend of mine recently told me I told her all 5 of those, and she said, it's Corinne Moore. I don't know if you guys.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
Corinne.
Yeah, love having conversations with her.
She's with,
She gets super deep, and so she told me what if you never get to do those things? God puts them in your heart, but you're not actually the one who does them. And I was like, what do you mean? And then she was like, what about Moses and Joshua?
Yeah,
What if you
dang.
guide, grow the people to create this thing, but
And
you
then
don't take
you don't
them
actually
there.
go into the
You don't
promised
make it.
land.
Let's hold off on that. I want to get there.
That's good.
I was getting ahead of myself.
No,
Sorry.
nobody forget this, all right? We
Yeah,
actually have to remember this.
But
That was pretty good.
I do have a question, Angel.
Yeah,
You know, because we're talking about your purpose, and we're seeing, and I'm listening to the words you're saying, and I could, from the overall theme is you love to serve, right? That is your value, right? You could say your biggest value.
My biggest
right?
one's connecting, and then
Connecting.
serving through that is my
that.
favorite way of connecting.
Okay, I love it. There you go. Thank you for doing that. And I think that's the first step, right? In finding your purpose. What is it inside of you that drives you to do all of that, to have all of those ideas which you're just talking about right now? I think, if you're struggling right now with your purpose, I think that's a great just first step,
Yeah,
right?
it's figuring out what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
What's the thing that makes you excited?
What's the thing that
what
keeps you up
drives
at
you?
night? You know, when you're just thinking about, oh man, I can't wait to do this, or I can't wait to have this conversation, or think about this idea. What are those things that you look at on a consistent basis, and they're part of your mind, and you may think, oh, that's just small, but they're always there.
So I guess the question for you then, what is that thing then?
For me,
Yeah.
I'm still figuring that out. Personally, my purpose, it's funny how we're talking about spiritual gifts and your calling, and for pastors, it's a lot has to do with calling. And, they always ask us, right, Kevin, they're always like, oh, what was your call? And for me, my purpose, I know one thing, it's always been to help others one way or another, right? To in a way to serve, right? But to help individuals, right? And, I have aspirations maybe to go to medical school one day. If not, maybe that's another thing. You just don't know. Maybe stay in the pastoral ministry and do that, or become a chaplain maybe. Those are all things that are still on the table right now currently. But I do know, deep in my heart, that I just want to help other people succeed, not only, in the normal things of life, but spiritually as well, or be able to help people and heal them, So because, when I was thinking about med school, one of the biggest things was also I look at what Jesus did, right? And, he would always help people physically first. And then, he'd give them that bread of life, which was the word. But then you're also able to do that here at pastoral ministry. You're able to serve in so many different capacities and help people with their spiritual lives, which is very, very, and part of salvation. I had a friend, and I'm like, hey, why don't you ever become a pastor? And he told me, he's like, because I don't want to deal with people's salvation. And I was like, wow, when he said that, it was
That's
just
real.
It's real, and I was just like, and I was still a young kid at the time, and I was just like, that's powerful, that's deep, and it's not something people take lightly. It's not something you should.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think in my case, the thing that I probably enjoy the most, I like I like just hearing people's story. I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most is just like in some way or another, I want people to feel comfortable enough to be able to share their themselves, because I think for me, I want, and I know I don't always give this vibe either because I've heard people like, be able to say, what sometimes I don't know, they'll be like a little intimidated. I'm like, dude, I'm like not intimidating at all in my head.
You're scary, bro.
And yeah,
What do you
obviously,
mean?
like I have the biggest smile in the world, and it's the scariest thing ever. But like the thing is, I love that though. I love people being able to share those parts of themselves because honestly, like that's the thing that allows you to be able to grow into a deeper relationship with someone is how much of your story you're actually able to share with someone,
Of
right?
course.
And I think for me that's the thing that I'm just little by little I just want to continue to collect stories in life, and I think that contributes to my overall thing that I'm kind of working towards. But what that is, I still don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
I have an idea maybe, but it's not set in stone. So I guess I feel like there are right ways to go about it, and then there are wrong ways to go about it.
Yeah.
And so, have you guys ever like been in those moments where like you thought you guys were in the right, but later on realized like no, you weren't? Or is there actually a wrong way to go about your purpose?
Yeah, I do think there is. I
Okay.
think it's just trying to do what you think is best and not putting it in God's hands. Because there's this one of my church members. He always says this to me like constantly. He's like, if you want to make God laugh, show him your plans, right?
Yeah.
But I love it. I think it's so great, and I think it fits perfectly with this idea of purpose. Yeah, if we ourselves think this is what we need to do, we follow it without putting it in His hands, then how are we ever gonna find our true purpose if we're not asking God to be there on that walk with us? I would say that's my thing for sure.
Something that I've like similar to what you're saying, like there's been moments didn't put it in God's hands. But then right after I realized like, oh, I messed up. God, take me out of this hole. And he'll like go there, he'll meet you there, and he'll make it work. He's like, this isn't the path A that I had that was perfect. You took like B/A, and he's like, I'm gonna make it like come back to A or just a hybrid of A I'll make it work.
Okay.
And he just can adapt to you, and that's been my favorite experience. Even
Yeah.
when I don't put it in his hands, like
No, absolutely. And I
so
think
forgiving.
I've seen that in my own life too, because I think the clearest picture I have of that is me thinking I was originally going to go to Southern,
Okay.
and that was my plan. Right, I was going to go to Southern Adventist University out in Tennessee at the end of my senior year of high school, and I found out I couldn't afford it, and so I'm freaking out at that point. I get off the phone with my financial aid counselor, and they just tell me I have to pay a certain amount of money that like my parents can't afford, and I'm freaking out, like I'm bawling my eyes out because here I am thinking I'm gonna become a pastor, and then like
They're
I'm like,
like,
God, are you freaking kidding me?
"No."
Like this is what you do to me, and it's funny because in that moment something drives me to check my email, and when I check my email, it's actually an email from PUC, and it says, "Hey, we still have your application. Are you still interested in coming?" And like I'm like in that moment, I cleared up my tears, and I just like literally looked up, and I'm like, God, you're funny, dude. Like,
Poor,
legit.
Look at that. Imagine Kevin would have never gone to PUC.
I know.
This would
Imagine.
not be
This would
happening.
not be happening.
We would not be at this moment right here,
This
right
video is
now.
not sponsored by PUC, even though all of us have PUC as part of our
Dude, we might as well get sponsored by PUC. PUC, if you're watching this, please sponsor us. We need your help.
Yeah, not sponsored yet. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows in the future? No, but dude, I love that story, and that's just that's like I think the number one thing, right, when it comes to going about it. And I think another thing you can think of as well is, looking for other people and asking them, oh, what should my purpose be? Like you ask somebody, oh, like, is this something I'm good at? What do you think? Right. And not having that complete trust in yourself and trying to move forward and finding your purpose. Right. Because I think sometimes I've definitely, done that as many times. I'm like, hey, do you think this is something I'm good at? Right. And then you take their words, and then you're like, oh, okay, if this affirms me, then this is how I know, right? And I think it's a constant process, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one person or a couple people telling you, but you will constantly see with everything that you do that this is the path that you need to take.
Yeah. You go ahead.
And so I kind of want to ask this question. But what do you do if you're good at something, but you're not passionate about it? Or I'll flip it. What if you're passionate about something, but you suck at it?
That's a great question, bro.
I don't know if I have something like that though. I like the things that I'm very passionate about. I've found to be like pretty good. I'm pretty passionate about music, and I'm not the best.
Yeah.
But
But you
I
play
can
the
like
uke,
dabble.
bro.
Yeah, like I'm the uke guy, but I'm like the annoying uke guy that like remember when
At
Yik
least you
Yak?
acknowledge.
Remember when
Yeah.
Yik Yak was a thing in college?
Dude, that was so long ago.
You,
That was
people
bad,
would
bro.
yik yak my name at PUC all the time. Like that annoying ukulele kid is outside my window at 11:30 p.m. and I'm like leaving my friends' dorms, just like whistling while playing ukulele. So that's like the musical
Dude,
prowess I
I
have.
forgot all about Yik Yak. That's hilarious.
I know, bro. That was another.
That's probably the only thing. Like I wish I could be more talented in music, and it's probably I'm not putting enough time into it. But there's also like a gift part that
That is a great question, and to be honest, I don't have an answer. I couldn't tell you, just because in my experience, for the most part, everything I'm passionate about, I'm pretty decent at, for the most part. So I couldn't really say. What do you think?
So here's the thing, like this is what I've seen like firsthand. Not even like in my life, but I see it like I've seen it in other people where they're super passionate about something. They're just not good at it. And at that point, like I asked myself, well, should you continue to do something that you're not good at as much as you love it? Because here's the thing, I feel like you can take two roads. One of the roads is if you really aren't good at it, but you're so passionate about it, then invest absolutely everything into it until it becomes something that you're good at,
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like talent you have naturally, skill is worked after is earned by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.
Practice makes better.
Yeah. Like that's literally, yeah, exactly. Practice does make better. And so I feel like you have that option. But if you feel like you're not willing to put in the work, then find another passion. That's the thing.
Wouldn't that be isn't that how it is though? If you're not willing to think about it, if you're not willing to do it constantly, then that's not your passion. Because I think about it, Kevin, Angel, you as well, right? Because we've had these conversations, like whether we're in the car or when we're at home, the three of us, because Angel spends the night at our house sometimes.
He's always welcome, don't worry.
Honored
Yeah,
guest.
he is. Honored guest. That couch is always there for you, bro. But when we sit down and talk, we all have a passion for ministry. And we spend time just thinking of ideas, and we spend time just thinking of what can we do better? How can we help the younger people of our generation? What can we do to create a space? And we have those conversations consistently, and that's how that's something we're extremely passionate about.
Yeah.
And thank God, up to this moment, we have been able to do it well, and I hope He constantly helps us do it well. But then that's how in my opinion, right? When you it's a constant thing, and you're always looking how to get better, right?
You can't escape it.
You can't escape it, and
always coming
you're
up.
looking, and that's what I think. If you're not willing to put in the work to make the program happen, or get better at the instrument, or do that, then definitely it's something else, right? And God will lead you towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's many times we maybe even lie to ourselves. We will say like, "No, I've already been told my whole life," and sometimes it's our families, like they're
Yeah.
like planting
Let's be real.
ideas, and you're like, "Oh, everyone's told me I'm good at this," so in your mind, like you're just convinced, and then you get there, and it's not what you thought it was, and you realize it was never your passion. Every time you thought of it, you thought of these people and not the things you've done or the things you could
Yeah.
do. And so it was
love
their
that.
passion kind of like just like drilled
On
into
you,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Like
I
it's
love
like
it, man.
discovering Jesus. Like you discover him on your own. You like are given it culturally through your family, but same with Jesus, a passion, any relationship, you got to make it your own. You got to discover it on your own.
So what do you think happens once you realize that, right? Let's say somebody has dug that into you, right? And you realize your whole life you thought you had this one purpose, and then it shifts on you. So what happens then, Because there's
actually-
people in that situation at this moment who they're like, oh, I don't know.
I actually did this. I was kind of like the gear turner for a lot of students at PUC when I was like an upperclassman.
No way.
There was at one time 4 pre-med or nursing, some kind of health majors that I like not convinced, but like swayed. I don't know, like showed them the nice things of like communications and business, which is what I studied,
Yeah.
and like marketing,
course.
because I saw it in them. There were like students that were very outgoing, and I saw natural skills of like communication, and I could tell they were not enjoying what they were doing. So it just from conversation, like, hey, what about this, and I had so many parents literally call me angry, like others. Like my mom wants to talk to you, or like
No
my
way.
mom talked to me and she said to stop talking to you.
Oh no.
And even since freshman year, I had a friend who was doing pre-med, and I saw her art in a notepad, and I
Yeah.
was like, "You need to do art! Like, oh my goodness, that is beautiful." And I've always been a sucker for art, and so like
Yeah.
ever since then, I would have talked to people my senior year. I actually set appointments up with like Professor Rye, Noons, like to talk about business communications, and 3 of them ended up switching, and 2 of them were like, "No, my parents were way too mad." And so I was kind
Dang.
of like I don't know. And I've always been in love with purpose and passion and people
Yeah.
really pursuing their thing. And I feel like in our church that's been a huge thing. Like our parents, or even just in college, I've noticed many people pre-med nursing. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here, but my parents brought me here. And there's a value to that, and I'm not gonna ignore that too. So when those 2 people were like, I'm gonna stick with this, I'm like, that's your value and your
Yeah.
family's value, and I respect that too.
You know, I think being in that situation is always hard though, because you know you want to make your parents happy, and there's that side of it as well. I've been on. I know what you're talking about. I've been there, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a sticky slope,
Yeah.
and it's definitely one where you can't be guided alone. But you know, at the same time, for people who are like in college right now, or you know, and sometimes it takes after you know taking you know a couple years of classes and realizing, man, this is too much work. This is hard. You know, then you realize, okay, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do. And you know, it's great that you try to empower people, because that's the word I would use, right? You're empowering people to discover
That's what I was
truly
looking for, yeah.
what can you do? What is God calling you to do? And
Yeah.
looking what we called earlier, what are your gifts, right? What are your gifts? Yeah, it's one thing to be extremely smart, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be pre-med,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kev.
I think, you know, I wrestle with that because I know I've seen both sides, right? I've seen some parents who are very like, no, like you have to be a nurse or you have to be in the medical field. And I think in my case that wasn't necessarily the case. It's not so much that where my parents were like, you know, yeah, go find your dream, you know, like it wasn't like that either.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not gonna say that either, but I think the thing that my parents engraved in my mind was everything in this life requires work, right? And the question that we all got to ask ourselves is, are you willing to put in work for something that you know at the end of the day won't make you happy?
I know there's
Because-
people that do.
And and that's my problem, because here's the thing. You know, sure, in the moment you're like, you can be grinding or whatever, and all you're thinking of, this is for my parents. This is for my parents. At some point you got to figure out, is this may be good for them, or this is for them, but is this for you? Because at the end of the day, like, I think when it comes to purpose, right? Someone else can't define your purpose for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have to figure out what that is. And I think I'd even take it a step further where it's not even about, because I always feel like people are constantly asking themselves, like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And they try to find it in all these things, right? And sometimes they try to find it in all the wrong things.
Yeah.
You know, they try to find it in money. They try to find it in their jobs. They try to find it in their relationships.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's common.
You know, and my frustration with that is maybe the question shouldn't be what is your purpose or what is my purpose, but what if the question was, what is God's purpose for my life?
That's good.
I think we need to reframe the idea that what is my purpose? And it's like, no. Don't worry about your purpose. Don't worry about finding your purpose. Because God already has a purpose set out for you. Yeah. You just gotta literally get onto God and let Him reveal it to you.
Move the things out of the way that are
But how
blocking.
do we do that, Kev? You know, because I know there's been so many times in our lives where, you know, we have to make a decision, right? We have to make decisions on what to do next. You're in something right now where you're gonna have to make a decision soon. Me as well. Angel was just doing that recently, right? And you know, we have all these options perhaps, and you're trying to figure out what to do. How do you make that decision, bro? What can you do to narrow it down?
Well, let's ask Angel, because I mean, he had some like decisions he had to make, you know, and so like how do you navigate, you know,
like this sweater, by the way.
Yeah, it is actually really nice. Like how do you navigate those moments or those decisions that you actually have to make?
Yeah, and like as I touched on previously for the listeners, like I'm moving from PUC to work part-time for now for Pine Springs Ranch at the Southeastern California Conference. And then ADRA, also part-time.
But that wasn't easy, right? Because
No,
you love PUC, bro.
Yes, and I still do, and it was hard leaving. And it's actually something you mentioned earlier. You mentioned part of like this process being inviting people to it, talking to them about it, and then not just kind of following one person, but conversation after conversation. That's literally my strategy. Every decision I've made, like to work at summer camp, to do work at PUC, long term, like all these things have been not just talking to these people, talking to God, honestly, and allowing God to use them, to use their mouths. And there has been so many times, it blows my mind, but I always, before going into conversations, and you guys maybe don't know this, but many times before walking into your house, I'm like, God, bless the conversations I'm about to have, because I know it's always going to happen. Every time I see you guys, we talk about stuff. But I invite him, because like we prayed right before this.
Yeah.
And as soon as we did that, because sometimes like we almost forgot, as soon as we did that, I felt Jesus take a seat. Like pull up a chair. His chair that he takes with him everywhere. He's holding it and like, okay, I'm invited. Cool.
Yeah.
And he pulls up the chair, sits down. And I think he's sitting here right now talking to us because we invited him. That's all it takes, right? Inviting him in. And so every single step for the ADRA thing, the PSR thing, I talk to, like I have like maybe like my 10 closest friends I go to for everything. And every one of them, I seek them out, but I say, God, please come into our conversations. For some of them that are more comfortable, I even pray with them. Like I'd like God to control this conversation. And then aside from that, my processing, listening is me on the road. I spend like, you guys know, like 5 hours on the road
all
a
the
week,
time, man.
like on average. And so that's me. I talk out loud. I probably look like a crazy person to the drivers beside me, but I'm speaking out loud to God and listening. And he, the same way he uses my friends' mouths, in those moments uses my mouth to answer my own questions as I'm asking them.
Ooh, so good.
And it's happened so many times, literally just by God, I invite you to this decision. Help me make it. And it's not always instant too. Like sometimes it's like maybe 5-hour drives that I have to go on and 10 people that I have to visit 3 times over. But like at the end of the day, he's like growing me towards that decision. And I see it happening.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's pretty clear for me. But I know it's not for all.
Yeah.
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 I think right now I'm at a point in my life where, and we've talked about this on the podcast too, you know, because of the big thing that all of this involves having to trust God.
That's our line, Kevin. I'm telling you, bro.
I feel like that's gonna and Joseph and I joke about this all the time because we're like, but what's the point in all this, you know? Like, and Joseph's answer is always trust God, you know. But in my head, like it
makes all the sense in the world.
It makes
bro.
all the sense in the world.
Amen.
But I don't want to do it.
Why? It's the best
It's
thing.
a human nature sometimes. It's our human nature to decide, okay, it seems like it should go this way, but you know what, I'm going that way.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think the frustrating thing for me is this is my answer to people. You know, like when people ask me something, like I'm like, put it in God's hands. But sometimes I ask myself, like, but do I believe what I'm saying? Because I know the answer, but I'm hesitant at times to follow it.
I'm glad you brought this up because this is something I mentioned previously that I struggle understanding how, personally, because of the journey I've been on, the way God has really like very intentionally led me, I struggle understanding when people say like, I don't want to. And it's so weird saying it because it feels like, oh, Angel's saying, you know, like he completely trusts God the way we're supposed to.
Yeah.
But like it's almost, I don't comprehend it. I'm unable, and what I call, and I've like been telling a lot of my friends, like my spiritual privilege that I feel I've been given because I have, like many people that have privilege, they can't understand where their people are at. And that's what it is for me. Like when people say like, why isn't God talking to me? And for me, it's so clear, like just trust him. And
It's because you're God's favorite, Angel.
and it's because I'm God's favorite. That's the answer to everything. But yeah, it's something I'm still struggling with. It's literally like on the cusp of like getting answered maybe. But it's something I struggle when I hear people saying that, just because I can't empathize as well. Yeah.
I know we were supposed to, what was that big point we were going to talk about before at the end? I was trying to think about it right now.
I'm so happy you brought this up. Okay, good.
The Moses
That way
Joshua
we
thing.
can kind of end on this.
Yeah.
note.
Let's
we're
see,
getting-
where are we at? Oh,
Yeah.
we're good. We're at a good point where
Yeah.
we should be coming to an end.
Moses Joshua.
Yeah. Before we get to that though, I do wanna address what you said
Quickly,
though.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I think that what you have, Angel, you have faith, bro. I think that's the thing that probably like you may not be able to comprehend why other people can't. It's because other people may not have that faith, and it's because for you it's like, oh, I just know it's gonna happen.
Faith
Yeah.
like a
You know, for
mustard
you,
seed, bro.
yeah, it's like it's not even a question in your mind, can or
Definitely.
cannot. It's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
I don't gotta like I know God's gonna do it
But why don't people have that faith?
because people like to be in control.
Yes.
I like to be in control.
I like to be in control.
You know, and
But has it worked?
No, it never
Then why-
works. No, it doesn't. That's the thing, man. And that's the worst part about it. Because we know,
Insanity.
and you know, we read devotionals and we read our scripture,
Yeah.
right? But sometimes it's just so hard, man, to just
Yeah.
put everything, right? It's because like I love, you know, don't get me wrong, for you know, most of the time all my eggs are in God's basket,
Yeah.
right? But every once in a while you just want to steal one for yourself, right? And be like, let me just keep this on the side for me, you know, but that's not how it is. And you have
Yeah.
learned, and I always see this with our conversations. You're just like, Joe, it's gonna happen, dude. Like I know, like it doesn't matter, you know, just like he was saying. And when you
Yeah.
see that mentality, I literally, I'm like, wow, Angel, like that is awesome. I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna pray that, you know, I can constantly work to get to that point. And it's a journey, everyone. Like that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. It is a journey, you know, and I'm still on it. Kevin's still on it. Angel's still on it. And we're all gonna discover it in different ways.
I also really don't want to make it seem like I'm perfect anyway, because it's
No,
it
Angel,
Just, I
are you
felt like,
sure?
just because like, and I even feel even more pretentious having said that now. But it's because like that's I was like starting to feel like, why am I saying these things coming out of my mouth? But it's a struggle, and that's why it's coming out that way. Maybe, you know, 'cause
Yeah.
it's something I'm struggling with. But like, if I can plug Jesus real quick, the reason that faith, it's not me. You know, I did nothing for it. My faith exists because, and this could be a whole nother episode. My faith exists because of gratitude. That's where I personally believe faith is rooted in appreciation for God, just
Wow.
thankfulness. That's it. You can be have all of the faith that you see for like the verse of the mustard seed, as long as you're thankful for every single thing that's happening in your
Yeah.
life.
That's amazing, bro.
And you can be thankful. It's possible. But yeah, I still struggle with people because of that.
I mean, and when you think
Talking
about
about
it, like with Moses, right? The reason he didn't get into the promised land, bro, hit that rock.
That's true.
You know,
He
he
wasn't
he
thankful.
lost it for 1 second.
For 1 second, he lost it.
You know, and luckily for us, you know, we have this opportunity to constantly, you know, to have that relationship with God. But with Moses, it was that.
Yeah.
You know, he hit that rock and didn't do it for God, right? God told him, hey, you know, just put your staff there. But what happened? He's like, no, bah. And then everything changed. And,
Yeah.
you know, he built everything. You know, he literally, the children of Israel, 40 years in the desert, take them to the promised land that they had heard so much, crossed the Red Sea, stood up to Pharaoh, talked to the burning bush, everything. And he only saw it from that mountain.
You know, it's interesting because there are a lot of different things, and this is stuff I wasn't even thinking about when it came to this story. But it's interesting because I think this just shows us the importance of actually being able to trust what God's gonna do. And I think what's awesome is God works in spite of our faith. Because I'm seeing the story of Moses, right? Moses still worked. And at the end of the day, even though Moses didn't get what he wanted, God's will was still being accomplished.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure Moses' wish was to make it to the promised land.
Right.
But God had, I think God also understood, like, you know what, Moses, you're not ready. And that's okay. You know, as much as you want this thing, that, man, I feel like I'm speaking to myself now. Like, like honestly, like I'm seeing is like, you know what, as much as you want this thing, Moses, as much as you want this thing, Kevin, this may not be the thing that is right for you because maybe you're not ready. And so I feel like, and this is an issue of seasons now.
Yeah.
Because
Or maybe it'd be too much for Moses. You
or
know?
maybe it would be too much.
You know?
And so maybe in that moment, God understood where Moses was at and was like, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
Because you've prepared someone else to actually take up where you left off.
Right.
And so maybe, just maybe, right? Maybe if we reevaluate the whole idea of purpose and, you know, because we talked about this earlier, right? How you may be thinking life is taking you in this one path and somehow God has this like you have path A, right? And then there's you're going on path A,
Then
but
you go to
God
B.
really is trying to, and then you take path B because you think that's where you're supposed to go, and God somehow always gets you back
On track.
to path A.
Yep.
And so I
Or
think
sometimes you may start at Z and God literally takes you to A,
Through every letter.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, and man, this is something that I have like taken to heart is maybe all paths lead to God.
They do, man.
Maybe all paths lead to God. Maybe they don't lead in the way that we want to. Like that doesn't like because obviously the Bible says there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the way in the end it leads to death, right? But I think what this idea of all paths lead to God is even though you may be on the wrong path, that doesn't mean God's not willing to redirect you.
Yeah.
He has contingencies at every path.
Yeah.
A turning point where it's like, this will get you back. And if you miss that one, there's another one waiting for you. And then the next one.
Yeah. It's like when you're on the freeway.
Yeah.
Right? You're on the freeway and, you're following, Apple Maps, Google Maps, whatever, Waze.
Yeah.
Right? And it reroutes because you went the wrong way. Right?
Yeah.
And it reroutes until you get back on track to get you to your destination.
Right.
And I feel like that's what's actually happening in our lives when it comes to purpose.
Yeah.
There are those moments, there are pivotal moments in our lives that force us to make difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the thing that we need to do, and Angel, honestly, man, I think this conversation, the stuff that you said, I needed to hear because I know for a fact that the reason why I am so fearful or I'm so reluctant to trust God is I'm scared of the outcome that could happen if I were to trust him. And I'm speaking this from a very vulnerable place because,
definitely.
as a pastor, I probably wouldn't share this with just anybody, but the whole world is going to watch it or the 30
The
followers.
whole world.
You mean our 40 people?
Our
Heard it
40
here
people that
first.
listen to our podcast. But like honestly, like that, I think that's the thing that I needed to hear right now is just understanding, you know what? I have no other option
That's beautiful, man.
than to trust because at the end of the day, like I know that God's gonna reroute me or reroute me to the place that he needs me to get to.
Yeah. And I think another thing too is, I'm thinking about that and we've had some, I think this last week, Kevin and I, we've had some news that have changed probably our future, right? And, how we look at things a couple months from now. And I think the biggest thing as well, if we're going to stay with that analogy of the maps, right? It's, one thing I always do is that I try to beat the time that's on the navigation system.
So good. Keep going.
Yeah,
I like it.
I try to beat the time because I'm like, oh, I can do this better, right? My car is faster. Like, there's no way this thing is right. Like, I can do it, right? Like, there's
This
a way.
is so good.
But
yeah.
guess what happens, bro? I never beat the time. I get there and I'm always mad because I'm like, no, I wanted to beat it. And sometimes I'm even a minute late and I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, how? Because I look exactly when I leave it. And that's how this journey is. Like, it's not how we want it. It's not, exactly how we view it and stuff, but it's how God is, and he will lead us back, and it's gonna be on his time. And if we take that moving forward when it comes to the purposes of our lives, then have no fear. Right? Have no fear. Live every day in confidence. Live every day knowing that you have somebody who is guiding you and has your best interests.
And trust the ETA.
And trust
Yeah.
the ETA. There
Trust
you
the
go.
ETA.
Trust the ETA.
That's the name of this podcast.
Yeah. Trust the ETA.
That's a good one, actually. Yeah.
Love it. Final thoughts, Angel?
No, I love that analogy because I do the same thing. And I was just thinking of the right here.
Yeah.
Doing the exact same thing and potential car accidents, veering someone else off of their path because you cut them off.
Dang. Oh my gosh.
There's so
I didn't
many
even think of that. That's
Wow, that's good. I've never thought of that's a sermon right there.
So
That's
many-
I'm stealing
No,
that.
I'm
This
already
whole
gonna use
conversation,
this.
I'm already thinking of when to use this. Oh my
That's
goodness.
a sermon right
Both
there.
of you can talk about it together. Yeah. And then
No, you know
credit
what's-
me.
You know what's crazy? We're actually gonna go into a series on Joshua here at the church.
Are you really?
Meet on
This
the
is
map.
so
There it
good.
is. That's all ready for you. Like God knew. But yeah, I love that analogy for those reasons. It works in so many ways, and I love analogies. And
Yeah.
that was a good one. But I agree completely. Just trusting, having faith in that ETA, and then just like, word of advice to everyone out there, just let it go sometimes. Let go of the control, put that trust in God, and practice that trust by being thankful for all the smaller things. So not saying, oh, I haven't gotten the job yet, but today I woke up. Today I didn't lose a shoe. I remembered to put them in front of me. Think of every moment you had while you're sitting down at breakfast, every moment you had since your eyes opened to you sitting down, and how God literally played a part in every part of it. And then once you start to recognize those small moments, once you acknowledge him in all the small ones, you'll acknowledge him in the bigger ones for those big decision ones. Because otherwise, you're blind with all those little things.
I think absolutely. I
Love it, man.
and I think that's a great way to kind of just end this. You know, the entire time Joseph was talking, he's like, "Yeah, you know what? You gotta have faith, blah 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 blah." And I was thinking, and you just gotta trust God. Literally, I was going
That is
through
the motto of this podcast, bro. Oh, bro, you should have, man. I would have laughed. I would have definitely cracked up.
But here's the thing, like, I think the big takeaway from all of this, right, is in short, right, because we talked about, how to figure out your purpose, right, understanding what you're passionate about, understanding the things that you are good at. And I think what we talked about right now is just understanding your life experiences, because, at the end of the day, your purpose that God may have for your life right now will change.
That's so true.
Because, I think we get ahead of ourselves of what we want our own purposes to be. But I think God may just have a purpose for our current season. And in the moment right now where we're at, this is the season that God has us in. And this is the season that we need to honor. Because I think we get, like you said in your analogy, right? Like sometimes we try to beat the time. Sometimes we're trying to beat that ETA. We're trying to get ahead of ourselves. But I think God just has a reason for every season that we're in, like there's a reason why we're at where we're at right now. And we can't compare our, chapter 1 to someone's chapter 30.
Nope.
Because we got to understand, like, what God has us here right now to accomplish a purpose that will ultimately glorify him.
Amen.
And maybe the lessons that we're learning right now will be the things that we desperately need to know for a later chapter in our life.
He's so good.
I love it.
He's so nice, God.
Yeah, just to
thank you,
glorify
Jesus.
him constantly, man.
Yeah.
And in everything we do, and he'll guide us and lead us.
Yeah.
Just trust God.
Trust God.
All right, guys.
Angel, it's been real,
dude,
man. Thank you so
great,
much
man.
for this conversation.
Yeah,
bro.
It was good, bro.
it was good.
Loved it. It was amazing,
Yeah.
and we're just so happy you were able to come on today.
Yeah. The only thing I gotta say is I miss the plant. I remember from episode 1 there was a plant here. Added some color. And
could.
I got you, bro.
Wow.
There it is.
that ain't it. I remember it was like a ferny looking thing, like stood up.
Well, maybe
Posture
we'll bring it back for the next one.
Yeah, we'll bring it back for the next one.
for me.
Yeah, just for you. I'll even write like
For Angel.
in memoriam.
And give it a microphone, like a little, so it can like have a little like dialogue every once in a while.
Oh man. But hey guys, it's been real. Thank you guys so much for this conversation. And hey, Elevate Nation, we thank you so much for joining us at the Elevate podcast with Pastor Kevin, Pastor Joseph,
And
Angel for today. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram and to stay up to date at Elevate the Name, and to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And we got some awesome things coming up in the near future. But it's been real, y'all, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.